Now, this is the, I guess, #1 camera setting that I would suggest you guys take advantage of.
Hello friends, I hope you're all doing well today. I'm Karina and welcome to Explore Blue Wild.
I used a Canon camera for this because I think it's a great beginner camera, especially their beginner lenses are very affordable, but all cameras have the same basic set of functions. They might just be arranged a little bit differently.
Alright, starting with the top of the camera, we have the clips for your lens strap, the hot shoe, flash, dial, on-off button, flash button, knob for either shutter speed or aperture, and your shutter button.
First button on the camera that you guys are going to want to look at, we have our dial right here. You're not going to use most of these, they're useless, annoying, and will not help your photography at all. You're going to need the movie setting if you plan on doing video. The only 4 settings you care about are program, shutter priority, aperture priority, and manual mode. If you're a beginner, I suggest you put your camera on program. It is the easiest way to learn. Shutter priority and aperture priority are useful depending on what type of photography you're doing, and manual is the quote-unquote gold standard for advanced and creative photography. Moving on to the back part of the camera, the more fun part. We're going to start from the top. Up at the top, you have your viewfinder. Right next to it, a little very important knob that we will get to later. Next to that, you have your live display / movie record button. So in regular mode, we switch to live display and back. And we have these 2 buttons up here, zoom in, zoom out, in playback mode. This one has a special role we'll get to later. This one allows you to choose your autofocus selection. And moving on down, we have our button right here, AV ± trash. Obviously the trash is for playback mode. On Canon cameras, you have your blue is playback mode and white is picture taking mode. And in picture taking mode, this button lets you switch right there between shutter speed and aperture selection. And you have Q, which allows you to change some of these settings on your screen here. And then we've got this lovely little circle of buttons, which will allow you to change your focus mode, your ISO, your picture shooting settings, and your white balance. And then we have our menu button here, which allows us to access the menu, and playback button allowing you to see our photos here, and this is where the display button can come in. It allows you to see different things about your picture. The display button also works in live mode to give you different stats on your photo, as well as the Q button works in live mode to allow you to change the settings just as you would with the screen. Settings I recommend for beginners to use. For ISO, you can either do auto or you can set it to the lowest ISO and change it later. If you want to go back, you just hit menu. Nope, just kidding. Okay, change it later. Then for autofocus, AI focus or AI servo work pretty well. One shot is a pain, I wouldn't use it. Next, your white balance. I always set mine to auto, and because I shoot in RAW, you can change the white balance later. So just set it to auto and change it later. Then we have our shooting mode. You have single shooting, continuous shooting, and then your timer settings. Continuous is good for moving subjects, single obviously if your subjects are still, and then timers are great if you want your camera to stay super still on a tripod or if you are taking a self-portrait. Okay, so first thing we're gonna talk about here is this little knob because it caused me a lot of trouble. This is the dioptric adjustment knob, and it basically is supposed to help you if you're not perfect vision, take photos. However, if you knock it out of place and you didn't mean to, you're gonna start wondering why all the photos you shot in manual focus are out of focus when they were in focus in the viewfinder. So I highly suggest that you let this thick line right there line up with the regular line and you do not touch it, and if you wear glasses, you just wear glasses and deal with it later. If you're going to be editing your images as a serious photographer, you need to be shooting in RAW. However, if you're a beginner, you can shoot in RAW plus JPEG so that you have the JPEG if you get tired of editing, and also you can edit the RAW to the JPEG to give you an idea of how RAW photos should be edited. Hit the menu button to go back. I always disable the beep on my camera because it annoys me and because it's distracting if you are shooting people or animals. The next setting that's super important is image review. I turn it off because if you don't, you get an image showing up on your screen every time you take a picture, which can be really annoying if you're shooting continuously. It also slows down your camera. Metering mode, it'll come auto set to this. Evaluative metering is the easiest mode to use. And then do not touch any of these. Picture style, you're gonna wanna switch that to neutral, as that is going to give you the highest dynamic range and allow you the best functions for editing. ISO auto, especially if you're using a beginner level camera, you're gonna wanna set that max to no more than 800. So sorry about the focus. Because otherwise your image quality is just going to decrease to something completely atrocious. So put your max ISO at 800 and it will save you a lot of headaches later. Histogram display, that should be set to brightness. This is actually super important because, let's go back to here, when you're reviewing your images, depending on how bright your LCD is, what the image looks like on your camera screen might not be an accurate representation of it. So the histogram here allows you to see whether your image is too light or too dark. And this one is a little bit on the light side, but it's actually pretty good because you can see the histogram is like evenly distributed here and it's not coming off either edge, and that lets me know that my image is properly exposed. LCD brightness, this is super helpful. If you're shooting in the dark, turn it down. If you're shooting in the sun, turn it up. And you can see here, it really changes what the image looks like. So remember, this image isn't actually changing at all. You can see if I had my LCD turned down, it would look way underexposed. If I had it turned all the way up, it would look way overexposed. So this is just showing you why the histogram function on your playback is so important. Formatting your card. When you first put a new card into your camera, you're going to want to format it, as this allows your camera to record images properly and it will give you the least amount of headache when trying to transfer images to a computer. However, and this is very important, when you format the card, it will clear everything on the card. So make sure that the card is either empty or entirely backed up before you format it. Now, this is the, I guess, #1 camera setting that I would suggest you guys take advantage of. So it's different for every camera, but it's usually hidden somewhere in the custom functions setting. For Canon, you have to scroll all the way over. You're gonna start off on 1. You don't need to touch any of this. This is all kind of a mess. You don't need to worry about it. When you get to number 8, this is showing the shutter speed or the shutter and focus control. Now, there's a setting called back button focus, and that's what this button here is for.
Back button focus means that you focus using this button on the back of your camera instead of the shutter. This means that you can focus on one piece and then move your camera somewhere else, so it allows you to focus selectively without having to choose a focus point, which is much more time consuming. And it means you don't have to worry about accidentally focusing in the wrong area or taking pictures by only depressing that shutter halfway. So I strongly suggest using back button focus. It is one of my favorite features now. Once you go back, you never go back. It takes just a minute to get used to if you're used to using the shutter to focus, but once you're used to it, it becomes completely second nature. This is the setting that you want to use for your movie recording size. As according to all of my favorite filmmakers, this is the most cinematic. So you're gonna want to go up here and choose 24 frames per second. And then the second feature in movie mode, similar to choosing the neutral picture in your photo style, you're gonna wanna choose your neutral format in your movie mode, because again, this gives you the most dynamic range to play around with when you are editing later on. Thank you guys so much for watching, and if you like it, please like, subscribe, hit the bell so you don't miss any new awesome videos. Comment below, like I said, with any questions. Let me know what you guys think if you want to see more videos like this, and stay tuned for the next one. Bye!